They use a palette and brushes to create. No, not a painter, but a different kind of artist. The makeup artist for film and television. I talk with two very talented transformers next on Below the Line.
It's Below the Line with George Peroulas. Tonight, George welcomes
Today on Below the Line, we dedicate the entire program to makeup, an art form that can set moods, settings, and tell a story. My first guest is a well-rounded makeup artist with a skill set that transcends all levels. Please welcome makeup artist Bryan Reynolds. How are you? Great, have a seat. So how did you get involved in all this makeup stuff you do?
Well, I thought it was a really great way to meet chicks originally, but instead I actually, to be honest, I started off in high school being very young and having an interest from it, mostly from watching movies and things like Star Wars and I believe it was American Werewolf in London is what really really sparked me and really got it going for me. So.
And you studied in Canada, and how'd you end up there to do makeup?
Well, I did. Well, I looked actually, when I looked at makeup schools and looked into doing it, I looked all over the world. I was willing to go literally anywhere until my mother told me that I wasn't allowed to leave the East Coast. And so I found this great school up in Canada, the London School of Makeup, and so I went there, and while I was there I also studied at University of Toronto in film production and art and design.
After graduation, was it hard to get work, try to find out where the makeup action is in your area?
Well, after graduation I stayed in Canada for a short period of time, and then there was a period of time where things were kind of dry there, and so I took that opportunity to move back to North Carolina. And in the process of that, at the time there wasn't a lot of work going on. It was kind of an interesting thing, and I was just starting out myself. So I went straight into doing straight to the makeup counter actually, and found jobs doing that.
Okay, but you did get a job working on The Patriot in South Carolina, a Mel Gibson movie.
I got a job as an intern doing that, yes. And so when they called me to tell me that my qualifications weren't good enough, I was willing to work for free, and they liked that. And that's how I got in on that. And I was a couple weekends here and there, so it was a great fun.
So in between those big projects, you also worked on plays and indie films, and you also worked, as you said, at the makeup counter. And how many faces have you painted in those malls?
Well, in the malls and also working with photographers and traveling around the United States, which I did for quite a while, I can easily be up in the thousands.
So do you recommend people starting out work at department stores, makeup counters, seeing all those kinds of people?
Well, I think it's a really good place to start, If you want to go into the fashion and print industry, that's a really good place to go because most of the cosmetic companies these days have excellent programs to train you. Now, if you're really wanting to go more into the film and television side of things, especially with union rules and things like that, you really need to be schooled and have an education behind you.
So you book a film, and crew call is usually 7 a.m. Why do the makeup artists have an earlier call time to start work?
Well, usually they want you there, a good 45 minutes or whatever before the talent is going to show up. So there'll usually be a call time for crew and then also for the talent. So usually my call is, an hour to 45 minutes before the talent gets there.
And what is a typical day on the film set?
Well, we start off with the talent getting there, getting them all prepared. Sometimes they'll go into hair first, and sometimes they'll go into makeup first, just depending on what we're doing. And also, if there's special effects involved, that means the call time could be as early as 3 or 2 in the morning, just depending on what needs to be done. So we get through all that and get the main talent ready. They'll go out to set, and I usually will go with them and leave the assistant, if I have an assistant in that situation, we'll leave the assistant there for her to take care of anyone else, check on, make sure everything's going properly on set, and then I'll usually jump back, kind of going back and forth, really.
And so what is the communication on set during the day? How do you make sure everything is going the way it's supposed to?
Well, I have my own set of walkies that I use, so myself and if I have an assistant, we'll have that kind of communication. That's not something that you always see, but it's something that I always have with me. And so that kind of communication is really nice, making sure that you know exactly who the DP is and who you're working with, and you make sure, and the first AD, and that you've communicated all those kinds of things to those people.
And when you get a script and you see the characters, how do you decide making a palette of colors for a character?
Well, I read the script and I really look into it, and I look at my role as a makeup artist more than just putting some powder on someone's face. I really look into where the character comes from. If they're from the country, if they're from the city, how they grew up, and oftentimes the script will give you details as far as that's concerned, and all that goes right into their character because that's going to affect what they look like.
So do you meet with the director or the production designer to maybe coordinate colors?
Oftentimes both, and sometimes you don't even get that opportunity. I've gotten calls where they need you tomorrow. So in an ideal situation, yeah, it's great. That would be great to be able to meet with those people. Sometimes you have weeks and weeks of pre-production to be able to work all those things out, make sure that the wardrobe is working with their color palette on their face. Sometimes you have to change their skin tone slightly to work with whatever they're wearing. So it all just depends.
So you're on set and you hear the word touch-ups coming in all day. I guess after you spend hours preparing an actor's face, you still have to keep working on it throughout the day. Why is that?
Certainly. Well, it's gotten a lot better these days with different types of cosmetics, and the technology has really gone forward with that. But you're always trying to make sure that they're looking their best, and oftentimes, almost always, they're going to call for last looks before they start shooting anyway. So you can jump in there and make any kind of adjustments that you really need to do.
Have you dealt with actors who don't like what you're doing to them with colors and what you've created?
Very, very rarely. In fact, I can't even give you a specific situation where that's happened.
Why do you do this?
Well, that's a great question, and my best answer for you is I've never really wanted to do anything else. What's as far as in my heart, and I just really have a passion for what I do. It really is something that I eat and breathe, and it means a lot to me.
And what are the downsides?
Downsides are that, it takes quite a long time to be able to get established, to meet the right people. It is absolutely about all, who you know, and to meet those right people and make the right contacts. And also, sometimes it takes some growing up. You may have not done the best job on a project years ago because you weren't ready for that kind of project in your hands. And so you have to sometimes grow up, and that hopefully you'll get better opportunities as that comes along.
Is it demanding, dealing with all these things going on and trying to get people ready and
it can
deadlines?
It can be, but I think it really comes down to being making sure that you're well organized, that your kid is well organized, that you're not having to look for anything. Everything's really clean. You really should look at it from the point of view of almost being a physician, having everything clean and all that kind of thing, organized, and it means that everything will flow much, much better if you do that.
And speaking of the kit, that's your makeup kit. It's
Yes.
It's your briefcase in a way.
Mm-hmm.
What needs to be in there?
Well, a lot of people put brand names on all kinds of things and say you need to use this, you need to use this, but I really think that, when it comes to lip glosses and eyeshadows and things like that, you can pick whatever you really want to, because most of that stuff is halfway decent these days. But where you really need to spend your money is going to be on foundations, and really nice foundations and nice concealers that really do what they're supposed to be doing, because you don't want to have to make a product really work. You don't want it to work you want to work it.